newsletters with us. I'm in Greater Akron.
Okay.
Right, it's terrific.
Oh, thanks. I end up having to do most of the work myself these days.
Yeah, I understand.
Working on it, I really can't show much more than what you've seen already from the release. Some of my time was spent with working on the archiver and the MDOS and a few other items besides my job and everything else. So, I'd like to do, first of all, let's just take a look. They're through. Briefly here, I'll just look at some of the items. What port allows you to do right now is it does allow you to use, first of all, the high-speed modems, which are widely available, 9600, 19, or 14.4. You can use it with any of the RS-232 cards. The only restriction is when you're using the color ANSI, which unfortunately I cannot show you unless I'm connected to a bulletin board. You have to have a special cable, which is documented in the brief documentation. Without a special cable, you can use this in the terminal mode in monochrome, and it will perform up to a baud rate of about 38,400 baud. If you make the special cable, you won't have any transmission or reception errors. If you don't use a special cable, you can still set it up at that high baud rate, but you may encounter an occasional dropped character. But for high speed, it does what it's supposed to do. You are able to go into setup and change a variety of items. For example, file transfer section allows you to set whether you want to send a TI files header, whether you want to delete incomplete files, whether you would like to hang up after the file transfer, and later on you'll be able to log the results to a file so you know which files you downloaded are okay and which ones you missed. This item is also not functional yet, but when it is, you'll be able to set up a default upload and download directory, whether you want to send it to a floppy drive or hard drive, SCSI drive, whatever. A logging default. If you'd like to load a disk manager from port, you may do that, or an editor. You can set the two options here. And when we go back to our main menu, if I select editor, it will go out, run the editor, I can exit, and it changes colors on it. That's different. But it will run the programs. Same thing with the file manager. I have it set up to run Clint Bully's directory manager. Back into the setup here if I can find it. For screen display, as I've already shown you, you can change the colors, change the foreground, background of both the terminal and the menus. You can select if you would like sounds or no sounds. I then have a number of selections for your terminal. You can select a number of different emulations. This will, right now in this version, it will work with ADM3A, it will work with VT100, and it will work with the ANSI. I did correct the problems which were found in the beta release. As far as I can tell, I've corrected them. So it will do the color and the monochrome emulations. So if you log on to GASP, the IBM bulletin boards, it should work properly. Or if you log on to the TI bulletin boards, such as some of the ones that I've written, or the PBBS, I believe Tucson group uses that one, it should work properly. You can tell it whether you'd like a destructive backspace or not, and full or half duplex, remote echo, and you can change the emulator to enable or disable the music. You can have ANSI music if the bulletin board supports it. I haven't seen it in many places, but it is there. This menu allows you to select the baud rate from 300 all the way up to 57,600. For most uses, 38.4 is the optimum speed rate. But if you have a 1200 baud modem, you can select it. It's 1200 or 2400 if you have that modem. You can select the RS-232 port you like, your parity. These options for buffer size are not supported yet. Option is also available to confirm that you would really like to hang up when you press Alt-H, so it won't blindly hang up on you. You can tell it to ignore the carrier detect line if you have it hooked up, which means if your modem drops carrier, the program will tell you. Or if you go back to MDOS, you can do an MDOS shell from port. If it detects a carrier, which means that your modem is connected, it won't try and reset your modem again upon going back into port. One last selection in this menu, you can select the flow control type that you like. And flow control, I guess, is best put when the modem and computer talk to each other. They have to tell each other, I can't get any more, or I need more data. It's sort of like somebody in a faucet saying, okay, turn it on or turn it off, and it just goes back and forth. You can select the hardware, or if you have a slower modem, you can select no flow control and it will function properly as well. Modem commands, I've activated a couple of these, and this will be mainly for the dialer when that is ready. The modem reset command, the hang up commands, whether it's busy, whether you lost carrier. Default modem does not work as of yet. External options. I've had only time to investigate the fax software and do some testing with Don Walden's system and his fax machine, but I have no code written to actually transmit or receive them. It's something that I haven't had time to do. But I can load any other program from port. In fact, if I'm in TI mode, I can even load GPL from port, run extended basic, and then return to port where I left off. So you can run just about anything from port that you could from MDOS or GPL, including something that needs to have exec, such as DiskU. So if you'd like your disk manager to be DiskU, you may run that from port as well, and it will return. You can also go to MDOS from port, do a directory, format disks, whatever you need to do. In fact, if you're not careful, you can run another copy of port at the same time and really cause yourself some problems. But it is available. Review buffer is similar to telco. I can scroll through. I can do a screen dump.